Little did I know that this will lead to a 3 million view post. I am going to sleep drenched on my own sweat. The OG pollinator of our planet, the original pollinator of the Amazon. That incredible science can be happening around, and it just should not be behind a paywall. Most people in our own country, Peru, didn't even know this existed. All right. This is Alaya, and I am sorry, but I forget to water her all the time. How is my makeup? I mean it. It's real good. Actually, should we have like a scene 1, you know? Ready.
1, 2, 3 meses después, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 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 yeah. 7, 8, 9, tú me estás gustando más. 10, 11 meses, estamos locos de verdad. 12 meses sí quiero más. 12 meses sí quiero más. 12 meses ven pa' acá, quedamos para más. Quedamos para más.
Hola, this is Dr. Rosa, National Geographic Explorer, UNESCO awarded indigenous scientist, founder of Amazon Research International, and author of The Spirit of the Rainforest. And welcome to my home. This is the only place on the internet where you will find me sharing raw, unfiltered opinions on our modern scientific world, as well as the ancestral knowledge of our ancestors. So come explore with me. So a few weeks ago, I decided to make a post to share about my unpopular opinions on science. So let's dive in and talk about a couple of points that I shared on the posts. Go, 3 p.m. Friday, put my phone down, forgot about it. And then little did I know that this will lead to a 3 million view post within 48 hours with hundreds and thousands of people commenting from all over the world. So the first point I shared was, not all knowledge is peer-reviewed. Some of the most valuable insights come from oral traditions, ancestral practices, and lived experience. That is science too. Now let me start by saying that with this first thought, I am not in any way saying that modern scientific techniques and knowledge and indigenous knowledge around the world are things that should be competing or that one is better than the other. Not at all. I am not trying to compare knowledge systems. All I'm saying is that there is room for both. So in indigenous worlds, knowledge gets passed between different communities. They talk about it, they discuss it, and then they reach, a common ground. Like my grandmothers and her ancestors too. Isn't that in a way similar to peer review, but in our modern scientific world? There is enough space to welcome these different knowledge systems, not exclude them, not thinking this is better because X, Y, and Z, or this is less because X, Y, and Z, but rather recognize that we could be achieving incredible innovation and solutions if we can just find ways to merge and to bridge and to acknowledge the power of both to do something better. God, we could be in such a much better position to really solve big crises and challenges that we have as people, but also in our natural worlds. My second point is fancy journals do not equal better science. The best research shouldn't cost $3,000 to publish. Prestige publishing often excludes Global South scientists and community researchers. Open science should be a right, not a privilege. Now, let me say with this that there are incredible, very prestigious journals that share about really outstanding, life-changing science. I am not denying that. I am not going against that. All I'm saying, because of those high financial barriers, which not everyone in our planet can just simply afford, could it be possible that we are missing also some extraordinary discoveries and innovations and solutions that happen in other parts of our world, like in South America and remote communities, that may just not have the resources to access these high end journals? That's all really where I was trying to get to this. To be, again, just open minded to the idea that incredible science can be happening around and it just should not be behind a paywall. The next point I shared was science is not neutral. Who asks the question, who funds the research, and who gets cited all reflect systems of power. Let's stop pretending otherwise. I mean, I think that really is the whole sentiment that I was trying to share. Unfortunately, science costs a lot of money. And this is me just acknowledging that. And through my own personal experience as an indigenous person who has had a really amazing training in the Western world, I firsthand know how difficult it is to get funding. Even though, I have access to different platforms and speak English. So this is just me calling that funding opportunities should welcome indigenous led science. This is me just saying, imagine the possibilities of what we could achieve if there were more funding opportunities for indigenous or rural communities that live so closely connected to natural life forms that we may not encounter in our daily lives, but they understand at a such different level to us. The next one, it's fieldwork is not glamorous. It is sweat, bugs, fear, and isolation, but also all learning and connection. The real jungle is messy, sacred, and unpredictable, not Instagrammable. So, to exemplify the fieldwork isn't glamorous, I have had the opportunity to work on different storytelling campaigns to highlight wonderful wildlife or spaces on our planet, including this one photo shoot I did for National Geographic where I am posing with thousands of native bees on my face. I have had people call that photo glamorous, which thank you, I appreciate that is how it is perceived by some, but it is also the result of an incredible talented photographer that curated the scene and the lights and how we were able to craft that specific storytelling campaign. The day-to-day of fieldwork, it is not always behind a lens and a talented team of storytellers. So for example, what it actually looks like to do our work, it means I am going to sleep drenched on my own sweat because perhaps we were not able to go find a clean river to swim in or to wash ourselves in. If I am lucky, I am carrying wipes and I can kind of clean myself, but let's be honest, that still feels I'm still icky and I'm still how do you say when something is sticky, I'm still sticky, and that is not necessarily how I like to go to sleep. The next thing I talked about was small life forms deserve big attention. We obsess over anacondas or whales but ignore bees, microbes, and fungi, the organisms quietly holding our ecosystems together. And some reason people thought that me saying this was ignoring the larger mammals on our planet. Of course, I am not ignoring the large life forms that we have. We need it all. All I'm saying with this is that those lesser known or the organisms that we tend to think the least of also just deserve equal attention, even if quote unquote people think of them as less sexy or less Instagrammable or less eye-catching. And also there are ways to make them really a lot more attractive to the eye, even if for people that are not connected to that part of science. Just FYI, people can be really creative. But I think this came to my mind to share because When I was completing my degrees and I started to kind of look at what was being shared about the Amazon on TV, on film, even on books, I realized that there was this kind of constant narrative of, men against the wild, and this, I am fighting this jaguar and I am fighting this anaconda, like, in the river, and I'm just gonna be trying to outrun this wild pig. And it was just really focused on this more exotic and, I guess, kind of wildlife that can, I guess, cause more harm in a way, but really kind of forgetting this whole plethora of incredibly interesting, beautiful, and important wildlife that we have in places like the Amazon rainforest. But then I quickly learned this really expands the rest of the world. And mind me, there are now incredible storytellers that are working to change that, okay? That are showing, for example, the majestic microbial life under the ice in Antarctica, or people showcasing the micro to macro in other parts of our planet. We have a few heroes looking, to combine all their creative power to change that, but very few compared to what makes the media. And, one of our largest projects, I'm gonna string this up. One of our largest projects is on our tiny bee. I don't know if you can see very well here, but this is an artistic representation from the Amazon, of a stingless bee, okay, a native bee that is the OG pollinator of our planet, the original pollinator of the Amazon. And yet, when we started this work about 5 years ago, most people in our own country, Peru, didn't even know this existed, didn't even believe that a bee that cannot sting you exists right on our backyards, okay? It was just such a clear idea that these smaller life forms don't just really get attention. I experienced something similar when I was working with microbes throughout my PhD, some in the Amazon, but even getting to kind of explore microbial life in other ecosystems and how little people think of them. Let's welcome all life forms into the science, but also into the storytelling. So that is the end of our first conversation. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And I look forward to continue exploring with you across the Amazon, science, spirituality, and the ancestral knowledge of our natural world.